Okay, we are now recording.
We are now.
Was that the Spain one, was it? No, Ringo. No, we are public. So it's 6:30. So we are set to go. Okay. Thank you for coming. That's my first go at being chair here, so please treat me gently. I've obviously watched other chairs, and I hope that I've learned as well as standing on the shoulders. Gentlemen here, I'm sorry, I don't know your name. If you just...
My name is Ben Garrett. I'm the Chief Officer of Rated Sandwich.
Thank you very much, Ben. So we'll know. Right, chair's opening remarks. I don't really have anything to say at this point because it's my first meeting. I will just comment that I have received the list of new information boards that are going to go around the town from the Dover District Council. I would imagine we've all got. I have put them onto a Google Drive, so if anybody's having problems actually accessing them, do send me an email and I can send you a link. So it's far easier to access it that way. If we can move on then, apologies for absence. Do we have any apologies for absence?
Yes, we have apologies from Councillor Lack, from Councillor Lee Marie, and from Councillor Victoria Tomlins.
Thank you very much. Declarations of interest. To receive any declarations of disclosable pecuniary interest from members in respect of business to be transacted on the agenda. Do we have any comments there? Anybody? And to consider co-optees, to agree the co-option of Mr. Ben Garrett, who we've just met, the Chief Officer for Age Concern Sandwich, onto the Heritage and Townscape Committee, a decision required. That will be, so can we have somebody nominate?
I'm happy to propose.
And to second that, and if we can just hold up our cards as we feel fit. Or... Yes, that is possible. Now, the minutes of the Heritage and Townscape Committee, to receive the minutes of the Heritage and Townscape Committee held on Monday the 15th of May 2024, and to consider any matters arising from those minutes not this agenda, this agenda. Decision of Councillor.
Thank you.
Do I call the Councillor?
Oh, yeah, well, Councillor's okay, that's fine. Mr. Mayor's a mouthful. The only item I was going to raise was HT 0524.8, and it said that there would be a proposal to arrange a pre-meeting. And I just wondered if there was any update on the pre-meeting.
Yes, so I did email and say apologies. I was unable to get arrange for it to be today. However, the people from Network Rail have agreed that they can come to the next meeting. But what they would like is a list of questions prior to the meeting, or what you will be asking and what will be discussed. So I said I'll raise that in the meeting and then get back to them.
Brilliant, that's ideal. Thank you very much for that.
Councillor Chidley.
HT 0524.9, Disability Access Strategy Group. The minutes don't include the point that I made, which is that the actual governance route for the working group is STC. So anything we do here has to go through STC for approval. So that does need to be reflected in the minutes.
I think I did write here that the committee needs to go to the next full council.
And that's fine, but it's actually a governance section, so we can make it a bit more explicit.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because that's where the authority is. It rests there, so it's not just about.
No, that's fine.
As a matter of course, it's a governance decision that will be needed at the STC.
Okay.
Councillor Dodger.
Yes, so I'm very happy to propose those minutes as being accepted with the amendments made.
Thank you very much.
Councillor Chief.
On this, please. Unanimous. Thank you very much. Just in terms of the scoping, we are just going to have a little run through the scoping documents towards the end, projects and scoping documents. So, review of the action log. Now, we do have an action log. I think we can review this fairly rapidly. But if I just go through point by point, and if anybody has anything to add, the first one, my own climate emergency report. I did make some comments at the Sandwich Town Council with regard to a meeting that I went to with the District Council. Not David District, the Resilience Forum being held at Ashford. Just to repeat roughly what was said there. We had presentations by the police, the Met Office, and others. Sorry, Councillor Anderson?
Yes, I was going to ask because there was, in fact, you and I attended a meeting with the town clerk and the tree,
Yes.
the tree warden, and she was, the tree warden was proposing a number of projects directly concerned with planting trees and maintaining them. And I would assume that would come under in the generic term climate emergency report, but there doesn't seem to be another place where it could be put. And I know, having spoken to Vicky Warden very recently, that she is concerned that should not get lost. So we really do need to put that somewhere.
Can I suggest a separate action plan for that one? Because there are various other things that, other areas that could be considered under climate emergency. And trees, yes, I do agree, but I think it could be a separate
Okay,
action.
so how do we propose a separate action point?
I can use words something like that.
I mean, Vicky produced quite a comprehensive report at that meeting.
Right, okay.
And it would be helpful if that could be.
Do you want me to bring it back to the next
Yes,
meeting?
because it was really very useful.
In that case, possibly as a separate item on the agenda. I'll just finish what I was just going on to. Resilience Forum, and one of the key points was to be able to identify the nature of volunteer, which sort of came out of that resilience, though obviously not so much climate change, but that area was covered. Moving on, Sandwich War Memorial, and that is Town Clerk. Do we have any movement there?
I did speak to the clerk and she said it is still ongoing. I believe that they are still looking at options for making the text more visible.
Thank you. Next one, from October 2023, Councillor Anderson was looking at the forecourt, I believe. I think this refers to forecourt, with benches and bins. Do we have any change there, or?
I believe this will be reviewed again in November 2024.
Yes.
So we've got a while for that one.
Great. Town clerk to contact BBC to establish whether there is progress on priorities identified in the two consultancy reports, the Sandwich and Heritage Harbour. Do we have anything?
Yeah, so the town clerk has had a discussion with BBC regarding the vision for the Sandwich document. At this time, BBC have informed that they don't have capacity to progress this, but are very keen to work with Sandwich Town Council when they have more resources and stuff.
Thank you.
And that they will be in contact with the town clerk and keep her updated.
Thank you very much. With regard to the next one, proposal by Councillor Anderson, seconded by Councillor Carter, which has been resolved, that is with regard to Ainsley Court residents. This is the public right of way and the steps. Do we want to cover this separately, or can we just touch on this?
It is covered in the agenda.
Yes.
Councillor Marie parking, Councillor Marie's not here, so I'll move on from that. the doctor's wording, I think there's nothing to be said there because they basically said there's no money. So we're not going to be able to do anything. Ongoing, KCC be contacted with regard to the inconsistent approach of replacing lighting in the town. That's not as ongoing.
I believe the town clerk is still working with that. Yes.
Thank you. STC Facebook page to follow the Sandwich Town Business Compass Group and share that link on the STC website.
This was just because it was asked at the last meeting what was in this action, and I confirmed it's been completed.
Okay, thank you very much. ATC, Assistant Town Clerk to contact page concerned to inquire if they would be interested. We had that is an action completed.
Yes, and apologies for the fact just seen it.
Amend April minutes, the amendments, we've done that. Request Compass Rose project to be placed on the full council agenda to be discussed at the STC meeting, so we'll go back to that has to. Yeah. I don't know if everybody knows what's going on has seen the Compass Rose.
Well, we know what's going,
Yes.
we know what's going on. I mean, and I know DDC have agreed to pay for it.
Yes.
Have they agreed to pay for the installation of the buildings?
Speaking to John, everything's being budgeted. Yeah, money for everything.
Yeah, I saw him last Saturday. He was chipping me up saying, when are you going to agree to DPC to take it on? Because a public entity has to take it on legally. And I said, well, that has to go via full council. So we went down to the 29th of July. So, but as soon as
That's at the point, because he's aware of it, so he asked him
that's it.
to do the chipping.
So it's not a barrier to the progress, is it?
No, not really.
It's not stopping it moving out.
Has he realised that it's not
He's
stopping?
been told that, yes.
I did tell him last Saturday.
Yeah, I told him that.
The only thing I can add is that it's moved from being 1 metre square to 1.5 metre square.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
It was. Yeah.
I think that was why I was asking about the cost of the actual installing it and
Yes.
moving some of the stonework that's already there. And I think there's a part, and not that I'm worried about that, but I think there is a little bit of work to be done.
Yeah.
I just didn't know who was paying for it.
Yeah. Invite representatives from Network Rail and Resilience Forums to discuss that. Yes.
Just before we move on from that, do members want to email me questions and I will put them all together in an email and let you know, or would you like to discuss?
I think that would be best if that's okay. Yeah. So people might not have them on the top
No,
of their
that's
minds at the
fine.
moment, so that they can go home and
If you say
pursue.
at the end of July,
Yeah,
is
that's right. Yeah, that's
okay,
good.
I'll send an email out
Yeah.
genuinely about.
Thank you.
Can I just clarify, because they are fairly separate entities as groups. So is it, maybe I missed the plot line on this, are they coming together to do one discussion, or are these three separate presentations?
No, I've invited them all to the same meeting
To
so
cover
that,
which topic, and this is where I've always seen this.
about the railway,
Okay.
the train.
So
Crossing.
yeah, it's probably without having that context.
I think what it was just to update you. It's
Councillor Anderson?
Well, I was just going to ask what's the focus, because we have had a recent discussion with Network Rail, but this is specifically about when all the crossings are
Yes.
closed.
Yes.
Thank you, Councillor.
Oh, yeah, sorry, yeah, just to, it's part to do with, when all the crossings are all down and the town is gridlocked, what are KCC and the police and everybody else, what are their procedures and protocols for doing something? So this isn't about, instructing members of the public to be careful of crossings, or taking care of anything like that. This is when they're all down all the time. We need to know from the agencies what they're doing, because not everybody can go out via the ancient highway.
I'll expand the action to make it clear.
It isn't specifically about this, but I do think it's quite relevant because we're querying this one now, but we're about to have that part of the road closed
They are.
all the way through to the crossing. And actually, anything that goes wrong anywhere else, we're going to be in a very similar situation, aren't we? And I don't know what the plan B is if something does go wrong, because that traffic has, where exactly are KCC going to tell motorists to move to? Because really they've got to do it at the Dover roundabout, because otherwise they're going to come down. They won't be able to get down St Mark's Road, as I understand it. They won't come down Withensford Road, so there's no access into the town this way. And if something goes wrong on the bridge or the other end, what happens?
So I think you've got your first question covered from Carol.
Yes, I think in this case, we have a question.
Yeah, okay, because I just think it was really worrying.
Thanks.
Okay,
I
thank you.
did, just to answer that, I did phone up Kent Highways, contact I've got there, and he was said, oh, I'm looking online. He said, I can see there is a traffic management plan in place for it, but he couldn't tell me it over the phone. He said, but it will be revealed. He said there are diversions and what have you that are put in place, but whether that work on the day, that's a question.
Any more on this matter? Final action point, request tourism video to be taken for finance and data purposes. Update coming soon. Do we have an update?
So the town clerk has been working closely with the project lead, and I believe that DVC have been very keen and are going to be involved in the project, but it's still in the discussion stages of what will be happening, but there will be an update soon.
Right, thank you very much.
Can I just make one comment? It's only because there's an action 1023.9 which focuses on vision for sandwich, etc. But its original draft included a requirement, and Carol did do it, would share the HIP reports from the past. But just to update you on the highway improvement plan as a group, we've got speed surveys being undertaken in Sandwich, which have now been deferred until the first week in September. That's because of the holiday period, basically. So they will be focusing on the High Street, Ash Road, into Strand Street, and also Withensford Road. And that will run for a week in terms of speed surveys, and then the outputs are expected within 3 weeks. And then what will happen after that is that the council will be arranging a drop-in session for residents to attend and share their concerns, their opportunities, suggestions that we then collate as part of the process of sitting down with the council to generate a new highway improvement plan based on the old collateral, but also that brings anything else new and reprioritises the content.
Yeah, I think we sort of also said that rather than just have a drop-in session, we should have perhaps a very short questionnaire so that we can actually guide people to the sorts of information that you need to actually go back to the highway improvement plan. Otherwise, we're back to 2018 when we say we don't want, or I assume we just don't want. Yes, that it would be better to do that.
Thank you very much. Item 7. Oh, sorry, Claire.
Yes, because we've looked at the action log, but what we haven't looked at is the page below it called Photos and Townscape Strategic Project Summaries, and I don't know whether that's going to come up on the
It's
agenda.
It's on the agenda.
Is it? Because it says attachment 3 and I can't. This is attachment 3, is it? The project.
We do have
No.
this projects and scoping documents.
Yeah, this is attachment 2, the action log,
Okay.
and then attachment 3 is comes under project and scoping documents.
Okay.
It's a summary.
Because I was just going to say, and maybe now is not the perfect time, but there is one project which doesn't seem to be included here, and that's on signage.
Oh, right.
We never have a scoping document for it, but I think it is an important project, and we need to review that.
I'll note it in the
Yeah, we'll bring it up then.
Yeah.
Item 7, public participation. I don't see any public, so I think we can skip. You don't need me to read all that out. Trust. Oh, cheating. Yeah, yes. I will take the liberty here. Item 8, disability access strategy. Members to consider and debate matters relating to accessibility in Sandwich. And Councillor Anderson, would you like to move on this?
Well, yes, the ramp through Ainsley Court, which is, you know, it's not a strategy, it's part of it. It's a part of the strategy to try and develop an accessible route from the key car park into the town. And there will be other things that we need to do. The one, and it's a big issue that I was going to raise, that seems to me to be highly relevant to the developments, the urban developments that are going to take place on the other side of the river. It's very obvious that the bridge, the toll bridge, is not for either for pedestrians and certainly not for people using mobility aids. If anything, it's extremely dangerous, in fact. And I am aware that there are people living on Willowbank who are unable to come independently into Sandwich. And Willowbank development is likely to increase quite soon, as I understand it, in a major way. And similarly, we've got plans for housing development on the Discovery Park side. So the population on that side of the river is going to increase really very substantially in the next 5-10 years. And it seems to me that there may be, and I'm aware that this is pushing it, but there may be some way of us talking to the developers about the fact that it will be, they will not have a market, they will have a reduced market for their dwellings that they're building, because they will not be able to sell their dwellings to people who rely on that bridge to come into Sandwich without a car. And that there may therefore be some leverage in talking to them about possibly funding a pedestrian bridge, because I think that it has to be the future, given the development that is going to take, the urban development that is going to take place on that side of the river. And I have been looking at the data for Sandwich, and that I find in detail. And it's very interesting, actually, that it is, as we all know, we have a much higher proportion than the rest of England and Wales of single-person households, and a much higher proportion of older people. And those households are unlikely to have their own car household, and will be dependent on using their legs or their mobility aids to get into Sandwich. And I think it's in the interest of developers for us to talk to them about that. That's me thinking somewhat blue sky. But I don't know if anybody wants to add things.
The toll bridge is totally unsafe for an able-bodied pedestrian to cross,
yes,
because
well,
a bus could easily, so one takes up.
Extremely dangerous. We do need a pedestrian bridge.
As for mobility scooters, there's so many problems of access all around the town. Due to the age of the town, it's a medieval town, so there is always going to be problems. However, there is certain routes around the town a mobility scooter could. So there was a sort of mobility scooter map for people that would help out the town, especially people for tourism, etc. But also, obviously, the age demographic in Sandwich and the neighbouring towns, which we obviously cover, is very high. It's elderly, it's a lot, a proportion lot higher. And there's other disabilities, i.e. mental disabilities, because people who live with dementia, there's more people around here than ever, and in the next 6 years, 49.5%, it'll be a 49.5% rise in people over the age of 80 living in Kent. So this problem is only going to increase significantly rapidly in the next 6 years.
Can I answer more on this?
Yes, I understand there's been some resistance to the pedestrian bridge in the past. In particular, when the bridge was closed in 2020 for the work to be done on the bridge, which is very interesting because in the spring of 1993, that bridge was closed for a similar length of time and the Bailey Bridge was installed.
That's
I wanted to come at this from a different direction because if we go back to the last meeting, what we had was a proposal to subsume the disability access strategy working group into this meeting. We had an initial conversation. It was agreed that there would be a scoping document here for this meeting to discuss, and I separately gone away and looked at things like the terms of reference for the working group, to try and get my head around what it is we want to get in this group. I'm just slightly worried that we dive in and start talking about some issues, and some of these issues, particularly the one regards across the water's been around a long time. There was a real reason why the working group was set up, a strong reason. And at the last meeting I said I personally wasn't very happy about where we were going with it, but that was okay because it was the majority of those and that was fine. I'm just slightly worried that we're sort of jumping straight into let's look at a problem rather than actually agree what is a strategy. Because originally there was a real driver for a strategy around disability access for the council to support the residents and the town. There is no visibility of that for me, and it's how do we move the working group decision taker to close it, responsibilities for that working group into this group and manage it and deal with it properly. Because if not, I fear that we'll just talk about certain issues and actually not, what are the outcomes we want out of this, what is the strategy around disability access? Because there are people outside this room who see it really important, and it's good that Ben's here because actually we've given a lot of cover to that in terms of the problems that will grow over time. We should be on the front foot.
Yes, can I also add another comment? Within the scoping documents, we have Councillor Black's local public transport, which is looking at the existing villages, that if we treat Discovery Park and essentially the Willowbank almost as separate villages and bring in on consideration of short distance public transport rather than going out, Woodensborough 2 miles, Eastry is again 2 miles away, Ash, but actually where it can actually make a difference, because I can't see the commercial bus routes taking into account Discovery Park and the others.
Well, I understand that Stagecoach are going to put the route through Willowbank to bring people through Sandwich. So actually that means perhaps another or additional buses on the bridge. And also young people who've got a buggy, if you've got a buggy and you're trying to get a child to school, which is on this side, you cannot walk along the footpath with a buggy and a child holding a child's hand. It's not possible. It's very, very dangerous. But I agree that something does have to be done. I'm not disagreeing with how we do it, how we tackle the whole thing. But one thing, with all that building going on, there should be quite a lot of 106 money. We do need to perhaps think fairly quickly about how that money might be allocated. And one way might be to actually bring in the small bus that brings it around. The residents, when we had the bridge closed, they were complaints, I know, but they were getting a regular transport route into the town, weren't they? And it may be that this is one of the ways that we do it. If no one will cough up for a brand new pedestrian bridge, or you don't let traffic come in through that bridge at all, and it becomes a pedestrian bridge.
Yes, and if I can just add one thing, we are within a year, 2 years of automated vehicles being able to actually go between points, set points, and whether the town should be considering trying to get into, if there's going to be research, prototyping, what have you.
Sorry, automated.
Autonomous
Without
vehicles.
Okay.
Basically, vehicles like drivers.
Yeah.
Just doing that, because to my mind, the cost is, the vehicle is the capital cost, you've only got a driver, and you've got insurance for all of this, but with automated vehicle, possibly. Taking this further, how do we move this forward? How do we take it beyond talking about it?
Well, one of the things I just wanted to raise was obviously, I see this more as a planning issue myself rather than a disability one, because any council Anderson started off with saying about the developments on the other side. Well, I followed the planning for the Winslow Road site, and in particular, they had to put in distinct planning for both pedestrians and cyclists, as well as car drivers as well. So it is really a planning issue. So really, at the end of the day, I think this has been raised by everybody here, because even if you're able-bodied, it's still difficult, because if you've got a buggy and a child, or if you're able-bodied and you've got dementia, so it's not really a disability thing. That's how I see it. It's a planning issue. And Dover District Council and Kent County Council, as the Highways Authority, will have to consider any developments on the other side of there and how they access amenities and facilities, and that has to be taken into consideration. So, I mean, whether this council wants to take on such a big task as that, so be it. But I think the ideas that Mr. Garrett put forward are more substantial, that this council, being a town council, could undertake, like mapping and assistance. I think that would be more, and leave the planning development to the planning authority. That's my opinion.
And you think we can trust them to say? I'm sorry, I don't believe that, although I think that's the right way perhaps for it to work, I do think that Sandwich Town Council needs to have a say up front about these are the queries, these are the problems, here's what we're suggesting you do about them, because I don't think they take too much notice of us otherwise.
Well, we will be a consultee.
Yeah.
Yes, I was going to say, I mean, Councillor Sugar said that this disability access strategy started off as a strategy. I wrote it, and it came from the town team, and it was taken on by the town council, and then I was elected as a councillor. So I chaired the disability access strategy working group, and in that strategy, I outlined short-term projects and long-term projects and so on. One of the projects was to do a map, and I think that would be extremely useful. And it is something that would not cost a great deal of money, but it needs some application. And in fact, the then chief executive and the museum coordinator did start walking around the town to see where it was possible to walk and use a mobility aid. And I believe that they did draw up a map, but I think that map has just disappeared. It's not been found. So I think that work probably has to be done again, and possibly in consultation working with Age Concern. And I think that it should not only include a map, which would be available at the Tourist Information Centre and on the website, but we also should think about signage for routes through the town and how we might organise that. And that's why I'm concerned about signage as a general issue and as part of, and it would be the umbrella issue project, which would include signage specifically for people using mobility means. So I think that's something that we could do as a town council. But I still think that we should, as a town council, be considering how we approach developers. And I think Section 106 money, does it still exist? I have a feeling that it's been.
I think it does.
Yeah, they haven't adopted the seal agreement at BBC yet.
Okay.
That's still.
And it disappears if you don't get your.
Yes. But I think we might be able to do better out of the developers than just Section 106 money.
Councillor Tudor? I'll need to go back to what I said earlier, that we agreed to bring that responsibility into this group. We need to put some ring fencing around what it is we want to do in this group. So at the moment, the terms of reference to this group does not mention disability access. There's a very practical step there. Paul, you mentioned these are planning issues. Well, unless we agree what the scope is of what we're doing here, we are going to have conversations that are going to be quite random, quite going off in tangents, and we won't move forward. I'm just trying to make sure we do what we said we would do, which was have discussion about the scope of this responsibility.
Yes.
And it's simply that we might even, one of the things is, do we say we said we'd have an agenda item every time at this meeting, but we need to be clear about what that agenda item is about. Claire offered to lead on this in this group, which is brilliant, so maybe responsibility less there. So in whatever way it is, there were some very clear things in the terms of reference of the Disability Access Strategy Working Group. That should not just be discarded and closed down. We need to transfer across and agree what the scope is here.
We do, I mean, I hesitate to contradict you, but disability is included in this.
No, it says mobility issues. Consider mobility issues within the town. That's not necessarily disability.
Sorry, thank you. Yeah, just an additional item which should pick up Mrs. George and Councillor Anderson's issue is, of course, you've all missed the trick because the town team was, Councillor Morehouse, the only other one that knows this, was set up originally to look into the local development plan.
Correct.
Now, if this council and this town got themselves together and got their bottoms in the right direction, your local development plan would address the issues of the development on the other side of the bridge. But as a town council, you will have very little, we will be a consultee. I've just got to explain that. So what's happening over the bridge, we will just be a consultee. If you do a local development plan, that can be adopted to say that nothing can be built on the other side of there until you put a new bridge up. So all I'm telling you is what the planning solution is. So we don't go down looking for planning solutions when you're only a town council.
I'm not suggesting a planning solution. That's not what I'm suggesting. I'm suggesting that we talk to the developers and say that they are missing a trick because they will find it impossible to sell their dwellings, new houses, to people who are either currently disabled or thinking that they may become disabled because they will not be able to come into town.
Yes, moving on, so that we can actually say we've made a positive move forward with this, which is accessed by local communities across the river. Where do we go with this? Do we create a scoping document? Does it become an action assembly, or does it move to a different committee? I don't. Well, that's not for me.
It is a planning issue. It's a planning issue. To flag it up here under this Disability Act thing, we've just said, I don't want to keep reiterating myself, we've just said it's not applicable to just disabled persons. It is applicable To able-bodied persons,
Can we push this onto the planning committee?
That's fine.
Yes.
I would propose
So we
that.
have a planning committee, I think.
Next month.
Yes.
The agenda actually went out today, so
yeah.
unfortunately we missed the agenda for July or August.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just think we've got two issues. We're talking here about the planning issue. And Councillor Parsons is quite correct. The town team was set up under an independent councillor to look at just that, but she was one person. But when I joined it, I didn't even know that either of you were even on that committee. So we had to focus on the one thing that she said was the main problem, which was traffic. But to actually go back to do that under a document for a town plan, it's an enormous piece of work. And that means someone leading that and taking it on. And we couldn't find anyone who was willing to actually take on that massive document. So, sorry, can I just finish? What I'm saying is, fine, it's not an issue about moving this to your planning committee, but we also, alongside this, have a disability and access group. And are we not thinking that what Councillor Suker is suggesting is a good idea for the disability and access area, because they can work, they can interject. They don't have to be totally separate. One can feed into the other. So I can't see why we can't have the access. Because I think it's really important. I'm getting older. I could have dementia next week or today. But I do think that's important, and we've done lots of work. Councillor Anderson has done lots of work on this, the tour around the town, finding out where you can cross over, where you can't cross over. So there's a lot of work being done. So if we formalize that in the way that you're suggesting, that's one area. And then the other part, which is a bigger problem, by all means, goes to planning.
But at the moment, it's basically to move along on, in the short term from this particular section, but also so that we'd actually move forward.
Yeah.
Because, at the moment, I can't see how we can do more than talk about it, unless anybody can come up with, if we should have an action plan or Councillor Chuba's comment, keeping it, pushing it into, correct me, where do we push we've got two things here. We've got an idea that we need to have routes within town. We've also got a separate one, which is the local communities access to town. So there are two distinct areas here, and I think they should be treated separately. I know I'm crossing the border with I'm being chair and trying to put ideas here. But also it's what we're going to decide now that actually moves us forward beyond talking.
That's my frustration, I suppose, is that if I look at the terms of reference to the working group, they're very clear, they're very comprehensive. They set some very clear outcomes of what that group is there to do. It's how do we move that as a filtered out, condensed version into this group. And I can't see how we're bridging from what was a working group to this meeting, what is the scope of what we want to bring into this, and that we accept as a group. Then we can talk about projects within the scope. If we haven't got scope, we will be all over the place. And I've heard 3 or 4 things here that I've heard for a long time that are problems, but we won't move forward as a group on that.
Can we have a scoping document? Because we are talking about scoping documents, existing scoping documents. Is it relevant to have a scoping document on the matter of links between the outlying communities across the river, considering a toll bridge, a separate bridge, vehicles, buses, what have you? Is that relevant to bring into?
I think just because Councillor Super was up earlier, and I wanted to maybe apologise that I missed the action off of in the minutes. And so I know you talked about taking it to full council, but and that you were expecting a document back. Obviously, I didn't record that, so I haven't made that forward. So would it help if I made that a very clear action now, that that document, we bring it back to the next meeting for you all to really sit and discuss what it is, what elements of that you'll be taking forward?
I expected, and I think you have put it in, so I apologise. I apologise if you haven't, but I'm not sure if I should. But does it not say in there that we would have a scoping document? There was an action of a scoping document for you to review.
Well, that's the scoping document that I did produce about the RAP.
Oh yeah, I may have misunderstood which scoping document you meant, so apologies.
Rather than the
Yes,
working group.
Yes, yes.
So I have that, that's in there. So maybe it's that we need to bring it back specifically about the working group, if everyone's in agreement.
What is that?
I'm still not, I just want to be clear. So, Mrs. George and Councillor Schuster are suggesting that actually we need to revive the Disability Access Strategy Working Group. Is that what you're saying?
Well, it doesn't sound like that. You've already got it, but it doesn't seem to have been totally formalised, because you're working on long and short term
Well,
options.
I wrote I'm exhausted. I just don't want to.
I just want to apologise, I've got to leave, I've got another
Yes, you have.
meeting to attend.
Yes,
so-
enjoy.
Sorry.
The Disability Access Strategy Working Group really fell on hard times, and people didn't attend, and it wasn't working, so I thought maybe this committee should handle it, and would handle it rather better than.
This.
And we agree, and I think we agree with that. I think we agree with that.
Yeah, can we bring it to the next meeting?
Bring what?
Right, we've got, to my mind, we've got two things. One is access within town, we've got access from out of town. So either two items, or we pick one item, deal with that. Otherwise, we will be talking for a long time on this, and they'll get conflated.
And did you also want to discuss the previous terms of reference for the working group, the Disability Access Working Group, discuss how that is going to be merged into this group now that it's been taken over?
Just to help you, Councillor Mallet, I think that's correct. I think what the Assistant Town Clerk is saying and Councillor Duke is saying is you've got to put the horse before the cart. So if we start discussing these two themes that you're talking about, we haven't actually got our terms and conditions for what we should be discussing and what we shouldn't. So if we sort out the terms and conditions that we have had for the working group, that will actually set us on a course as to what we can discuss within this context.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing that's got to be done. Then once that's set up, we know whether we will be able to discuss routes, disabled routes within the town or disabled routes coming in from the town. That will assist us to do that. So we really need to adopt what Councillor Duke is saying first, and that should have been done previously.
So we're pushing it back into the working group. To the working group.
That's a way of avoiding doing.
Yeah, it's just to try and avoid it being talking as opposed to looking.
I wrote those terms of reference, and I'm glad they appreciate it. But I really do think we need to get on with doing stuff, and this might be the appropriate thing to do.
So an action would be to bring the terms of reference back for the next meeting, so to clearly outline what it is that this group is going to take on now that it's merged.
Yeah, exactly. I'm happy to propose that.
Yeah. And somebody seconds. And we're voting on this. Just to clarify, we're voting basically on the terms of reference, working group, so that we can bring these matters on some of these 2 days. Tourism Forum. Members will receive an update on matters relating to Sandwich tourism.
Few months.
I went.
Yeah, there's 7 of us in total.
2 people from, 2 ladies from DSC. Were very good.
Very good indeed, yes, but it was very disappointing, the amount of people that came from locally. It was still a very useful meeting, but it was a little bit constrained by the fact that there weren't many people there to discuss it. But there were some very positive outcomes, I think, from...
Yeah, I mean, DDC certainly are very happy winning, able to get themselves involved in things for tourism in Sandwich.
Sorry, I was just going to say, the thing that I liked about their attitude was that they were more concerned with doing it for Sandwich rather than doing it as part of their job for DDC. Because my gripe was always people deciding from time to time who never actually bothered to venture here or things like that. It makes them quite different.
Yeah, I mean, and an example of that was actually about the notice boards, because, you know, they know all about these notice boards. They're out there. They're quite concerned that when we talked about it not happening until next year, they sort of said, well, depending on what I think John Hennessy is the key here, but depending on what he says about the history of those boards, they think it could happen a lot sooner. And I did get an email today to check on what we've all received, because it was unclear who'd got what. I mean, I was horrified when I thought I was the only one who received it. But yeah, and I think they are very positive about helping us. They came up with some ideas. They want to come to the next meetings.
Yeah. And I think as well we had Father Sebastian come as well. He was actually it was very good to have him on board.
Yeah.
Because he came up with ideas and suggestions and
He's come from, he was in Tewkesbury before, and he has a PR, he had a PR member of his parish, and they had persuaded her to come out of retirement to help St Clement's to put tourism on the map, doing all sorts of things like helping to build a replica of the church in its various ages, and funding. So he I don't know whether he was willing to share all of that, but certainly share the lady. But we talked a lot about how do we get funding for all the things that we would like to do, and the social media side that they were really pushing, and they think that we've probably got quite a few experts already in Sandwich who would be willing to get involved with promotion of tourism, promotion in general. They're also going to bring back the people from Visit Kent so we can actually ask questions about the survey, because even they're disappointed with what it said. You know, there were no foreign visitors in Sandwich when they did the survey. 300 sample size, it wasn't very big. So I think actually they were really enthusiastic about helping Sandwich. So we were happy, and Pete, the minutes were written anyway, so I think a lot will come out of that.
Thank you very much. Any other comments from anybody?
I'm just going to say there's another, sorry, Mr. Chairman, there's another item just coming up, the next item actually, that will probably knock the socks off of tourism in Sandwich. So I'll wait until we get to item number 10.
Which we're about to.
Oh, yes.
Yes, item number 10, Sandwich project. Mr. Robert Ripley.
I'll be quick because there's a football match on.
Oh, yes, I'm aware of that, yes.
Firstly, thank you for inviting me to give you an update. I will be quick. And I'd like to start by thanking the STC for giving us funding to actually get off the ground with the World Heritage Approach application. The project has attracted hugely more interest than I ever expected from, I guess, professional groups and organisations. It's been remarkable. I'll come on to that a bit later. I had an email from a lady in Ash I don't know how the hell she got hold of my email address, probably from Ash Parish Council, I suspect. She said, "Oh, wow, this is the best thing that's ever happened in Ash for years." I thought, well, not much happens in Ash, I guess, so here we are. But that's a true story. We've a constitution drawn up, which myself and Mayor Councillor Carter has actually helped with. So that's ready and available to us. It's been drawn up on a legal basis using Councillor Gray as using as a template to do that, for doing that. We need that constitution in order to get a bank account. And until we get the bank account, I can't get my hand on the 500 quid that you kindly do. So, we're in the process of opening a bank account, and we actually, I think we're pretty much just about there with Lloyds Bank, who are one of the few people that, few organisations that do organisational bank accounts, if you see what I mean. We've agreed the composition of the team that will manage the project, and they are specifically President, Mr. Mayor, Treasurer, Lady Mayoress, Chairperson, myself, and General Dogs Body, Councillor Lynn Ripley. So, Secretary, I should say. So we have a small management team that's going to be responsible for this. I've been in touch with a number of stakeholders, and I'll go through a very quick list of them. They include English Heritage, Dover District Council, Roger Wharton, I don't know if people know Roger Wharton, the Dover District Council, head of the strategy there, he was interested. Jane Miles is actually joining us. University of Kent have been very proactive. CCCU Christchurch have been very proactive in the project. Kent Archaeological Society have also been proactive. They've joined, they want to join. And Seabase, people know what Seabase is? Council for British Archaeology in the southeast of England. So they are on board as well. We've also had Dover Museum today contact me to say we would like to be involved, you know, in a contributory way. So we have a whole host of professional groups. The people from UKC, the universities in Sandwich, 3 of them are the people who wrote this book. So they are very knowledgeable people in terms of medieval Sandwich. And another one who's joined key part of it is an archaeologist who's actually dug Richborough, written the definitive book on Richborough. He is also involved. And all of these people that I've mentioned are giving their blessing to actually proceeding to World Heritage. Okay. Councillor Ripley and I met with the people from the university last week, and they gave us some super ideas and some contacts of how to proceed. I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
No, I don't think so. You haven't mentioned this one.
Sorry?
You haven't mentioned.
We're coming on to that. Yeah, okay. So we've got our inaugural meeting coming up on the 18th, which is next Thursday week, and that's going to be presented to us by the President of World Heritage UK, a gentleman called Chris Blanford, who's an OBE, and he's going to be giving a talk and giving us guidance on how the process works and how we can fit in with that. So all of the people that I've mentioned to you, the professionals, are going to be joining that. I'm not saying they're going to be part of the project, but they're going to be contributors to it. So they're going to be important to us. Okay. We also went to Ash Parish Council, Mr. Mayor and myself, and they were interested. And just to mention that Richborough falls under Ash Parish Council, so our protocol we decided to, we wanted to speak to them, and they've nominated somebody to join the group as well. So they're involved. I've also started to do research on the components that World Heritage actually demand, which is a statement of outstanding universal value. You have to, this needs quite a few drafts and redrafts, I think, but I've actually drawn up the first outstanding universal value that could be discussed next week at the meeting. and also looking at the criteria that we meet in World Heritage terms. There are 10 criteria, 7 of them are cultural, 3 of them are natural world, and I think we meet 4, and the university people agree with me, we meet 4 of those 7 criteria within Sandwich and Richborough. Okay. So we're beginning to make progress. We're building contacts that can help us, but it's early days. If I can use a metaphor that we're in a race from here to Australia, I think we've just about reached Sandwich Bay. So I think it's a long haul, but we've made a good start, is the way I would put it. So, any questions to that? I'm happy to try and answer.
Just to say, actually, Councillor Ripley, who represented you, if you like, or this project last night at the tourist meeting, you did a really good job at explaining all of that too. And it's a shame that there weren't other people there to hear it. So it's brilliant. Yeah.
No, just one thing I wanted to add to that was that for me in particular, and I know you feel exactly the same, one of the important things about hopefully getting this World Heritage status is that it gives an extra level of protection for conservation. And
absolutely,
things like that.
That's the primary.
And I know some people have been concerned about, the tourist factor, bringing local. I like to think of them as the people that would come because of this, visitors, not tourists per se, because they will be interested in the history aspect of things and the heritage rather than boozers and nightclubs sort of thing. So yeah.
So I think quality visitors is your point, isn't it?
Well, yeah, people that specifically, specifically interested.
So we're making good progress, I think.
Is there do you have time?
5 to 10 years.
9 to 10 years.
5 to 10 years.
Is that what they?
You have to get onto what's called the government through the Department of Culture, Media and Sport. You have to go onto what is called their tentative list.
Right.
And the people at the universities last week are actually working with York to become a World Heritage Site, and they sort of said to us it's going to be 5 to 10 years to achieve that. But yeah,
it's very exciting.
But we've made a start. And the important thing to me is we've got people around us, professional people, saying we would like to be contributing to this.
With regard to the meeting, I mentioned to Chloe that this could be a regular entry on our list of subjects. Should it be, if it's 5 to 10 years, then everyone is not appropriate.
No, quarterly or...
I was just going to say it will perhaps be drip feed, because there's going to be some periods where we're working on documentation, so that there will be no progress to report back. So I would perhaps do it on the instigation of the chair of the group, actually.
So
when I've got sufficient progress to report,
that would be fantastic.
Just an extra thing to mention, passing funding for this. Obviously, the £500 that was given by the council is just to start at costs. After that, because it could be potentially quite a costly process, we're going to go for lottery heritage funding, and we have various other
The university people gave us a number of suggestions about sponsorship and funding, and they have already got their tentacles out to these kind of people. So they've given us quite a few. I won't go into them now, but there's quite a few suggestions that came up last week about where to go for sponsorship.
And if anybody's got any other suggestions, we're very happy to have them.
It's good fun and it's quite exciting. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Do you mind if I leave you? Because
yes, of course.
Thanks for your time.
Moving on to number 11, projects and scoping documents. I was going to just propose running through the various scoping documents that are on.
Thank you. Bye.
Just as much as anything, not so much people to put any input, but so that we can keep them live and we can understand what is happening on a monthly basis. I'm going to start with Councillor Lindley to identify numbers of holiday lets and Sandwich. Do we have any change, anything to report on that since we last spoke?
Yes, probably. I mean, I did hold, with help from other people, obviously, a drop-in session at the end of May. I mean, I like to mention up front a couple of people in the town who helped, were great help with this, so I can't mention one by name, because I don't want to, but everyone talking about. The other one was June Summerhays, who has been very helpful in doing this. But we held a drop-in session relating to, in fact, I've got a holiday let update really about the legal requirements. I don't know if anybody wants to have a look at any of these. Sorry. Yeah. Okay. And basically, what we did up front was try to identify how many Airbnb, I'll use the term Airbnbs, although, you know, there's lots of different sites, but everybody knows that term, within the town, which is an incredibly difficult task, because on the sites, most of these properties aren't identified by their address, obviously, because, you know, that's a bit of a dangerous thing to do. So we had to try and identify them by other means, which was difficult, and I dare say we've got a fair few wrong. But the total number we sort of came up with was well over 100, probably 120. And that's ones that we thought we could identify. That's not taking into account second homes and post-holiday lets. So the drop-in session was to update owners and potential owners on any changes in legislation, rules and regulations that might come into force, or to let them know what is currently in force. And I wasn't surprised that we didn't get many people coming. We actually had more people coming than I imagined. I was going to be quite surprised if we got more than 2 or 3 turn up. In fact, we got 13, which doesn't sound a lot, but most of the people that came that were currently owners or managers of Airbnbs had several to their names, so it covered perhaps a bit more properties than we imagined. The other reason I suspect that, well, the reasons I suspect that people didn't come were, A, they don't want to be known as Airbnb, or B, they weren't at the property at any time while the letters were posted to them. Or people that were in the property just didn't the letters, I don't know, who knows, but anyway. I have got some of these holiday let information leaflets out in the section here, so if anybody does want them. I have spoken to a couple of people since who've been interested in picking them up. There's a lot of things that are problems with Airbnbs. I mean, there are benefits, obviously, boost to tourism, income for our property owners, and money spent in the town. But I've got a much longer list of downsides, and I don't know if you want me to run through those, or I could be quick, or just
Quick.
quick. Okay.
Yes, quick.
Right, very quick. Okay. There are loopholes in the law and in, obviously, regarding that, which are going to be hopefully addressed. And I don't expect the change of government to make any difference to any of this that's going ahead. And as if you've noticed, if you've read what I put out, these are just guidelines as to what might happen. They're not definitive or regulations yet. But there are discrepancies in the rules and legal requirements between holiday lets and local hotels, bed and breakfast, etc., in terms of what they are expected to pay out for, what they're expected to provide, you know, in terms of fire regulations, licences for music, TVs, etc., etc. And which puts our local businesses at a disadvantage. It also means a major thing is the lack of affordable properties to rent or buy for locals. And I looked on Rightmove again today, and there are 8 properties out for rent. It's actually an increase from the last time I looked, which was a few weeks back. The prices, the cost of renting are anything between 950 and £1,650 per calendar month. And the rise in house prices is quite significant as well. Apparently the rise in house prices is highest in rural and coastal areas where, you know, you have most of these properties. Other of the major issues are antisocial behaviour, noise, late arrivals, parties, parking, litter, and the sheer numbers involved in certain areas, which was brought to my attention by people locally who live next door to, you know, several properties. Dangers, landlords evicting long-term tenants, which has been happening to make more profitable short-term lets, depletion of the local housing stock, an increase in house prices. It can make ghost towns in winters. I know Margate has been, Margate has been complaining about, and Whitstable, yeah, and lots of other places further afield are complaining that, you know, they're going to be ghost towns. It has a negative impact on local traders, often, on, you know, depending on what they're selling, etc. But if people aren't there to buy stuff during the winter because, you know, a lot of the properties are empty. And there are going to be safety and maintenance issues in certain properties that aren't properly regulated. Now, the idea that there are going to be there's going to be a national registration scheme proposed for next year, designed to register and regulate. It's great that there's no information on how this is going to be enforced. So, you know, I think the way people are going to be staying in the counter anyway. The idea is to improve the equity between the holiday lets and other tourist businesses, for example, local hotels and bed breakfasts. You know, things like fire safety measures and business waste disposal costs, licensing, and all these sorts of things are major issues for a lot of people. Anyway, you know, we can't do any more than just bring these things to people's attention. We have no right to legal obligations or anything. And the only people it will have after some of these things that are introduced next year is DVC, the local council. You know, they tend to increase the council tax potentially to 200% and new properties, etc., etc. But there again, how it's going to be enforced is
certainly producing this. Is it relevant to put this on the website?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah, for sure.
So has your project come to an end now?
Yes, where can we go next with this? I can't see where we can go at all. We you know, tried to bring this to the attention of the owners of the property in town. If they choose not to take it over, we can't do anything about that.
Then Mark, this one is done.
Project complete.
It's brilliant.
Okay, thank you.
Could I just check, could I just ask that before the document does actually go on to our website or any other notice boards, it's checked for legality, if that's okay?
Absolutely
So
fine,
disrespect, but
No,
you
no,
don't
no.
want to put any information out to the public and then
I did
it's
sort of put a
not-
caveat at the end that this was just a guide, you know, I don't think that would hurt to put an extra.
just,
Would we consider DDC?
yeah, I would before we put it, if we put it on our website. Thank you.
And moving to the next one, which I'm looking at community transport. Now, we've really covered this at the moment. Unless there's anything else that we particularly want to add, can we move on to this one? Thank you very much. Consultation with DVC home insulation conservation area. Councillor Anderson, is there anything that you want to add on these things?
So with that,
That's it. We're closing this one.
and I think
Yes.
It's closed.
On the summary, yes.
Oh, I haven't seen that.
Yeah.
I was seeing it as closed. Can we put that at the top?
So I'm working from a different document, you're looking at the individual, I think
I
the,
didn't see it.
I think,
Oh,
oh, okay.
never mind.
I'll take it out.
Yeah, councillor, can I take review the availability of bicycle parking?
Yeah, I'm going to have to apply for an extension of mine to perhaps early next year. I didn't realise, becoming speaker in Simple, I didn't realise that I was integral to the planning of the installation of the law board, and I thought somebody else was doing that. I was just going to visit places, but I am now planning the installation of the law board, so taken precedence over this project, so apologies for that.
Councillor Chuka, involves the undertaking of audit of street furniture. Do you have anything?
Nothing else to add in terms of over and above the updates I've given here, so I think end of September now, so maybe last time I had to delay it, so
No?
yes.
Okay, moving on, slow ways. Is there any more to add on the slow ways?
I'm terribly sorry, I must apologise.
I'm just as bad as. I'm just as bad.
Well, it's partially that I haven't been terribly well, so I haven't actually been walking with the group that I normally walk with. So that sort of went on hold, but I'm aware that there are other walking groups that do walk around here, and I ought to consult with them. And I have got.
You need to walk through my. Councillor Marie is here, so we might just move on. Parking issues.
So Councillor Louis and those two parking things,
Yes, we wanted to move it.
they're being reassigned, and I think the idea was that this meeting decide where those two projects.
So, just running through, parking issues within the sandwich ward and its impact on the town. A review of parking within the sandwich ward and what improvements can be made, etc. Is there anybody that would like to take this particular statement document?
Did we get scoping documents on these? I'm just looking through, sorry.
Yes.
We've got scoping documents.
Yes.
Yeah.
We'll just run through.
I can find them here.
What's
yes.
included,
Yeah.
review the parking within the sandwich ward and what improvements can be made, assess the antisocial parking within the south ward, that's double parking potentially no access to emergency services, new double yellow line locations added to the current head report for pinch points, that's areas that flood up because of antisocial parking. Parking charges review, holding DVC to account for the extortionate rises. I don't know who wrote that. It actually says that, and I think it's quite appropriate.
I think we challenged it when we saw it, some of this.
Yes, possible 1 free Saturday a month for parking in the Guildhall car park, that's the back end. What's not in the scope, I'll not go through that, but the key stakeholders, County Council, Councillor Chandler, County Council officers, County Council road safety, District Council councillors and officers, that's parking services, and Sandwich Town team.
Can I suggest, Simon, because we've got another one as well, which is street signs. Would it be sensible to email our members of this group the 3 scoping? Well, I'm not sure you got one from Jeff, but if you did, and the 3 of them can go out to the members of this group to give them time to reflect. Because I know a couple of members aren't here tonight. One might be particularly interested in road-related aspects. And then just give an opportunity to respond in time for the next meeting.
Yes, that's excellent. Yes.
So I'm not sure anybody's here is jumping up and down to take on a new project.
Basically identify the, so yes, that's the speeding issues. And we've covered this one, Councillor Anderson, to develop an accessible pathway into town centre from the Fleet Park.
Well, except that there are 3 points that need to be really approved by this committee, I think, on the scope of the document. So the first one is the inquiry of KCC whether it's necessary to register the status of the pathway through Ainsley Court as a public footpath, and if necessary, get permission for this route to be a public footpath. Secondly, get 3 quotes for the building of the ramp and select the best quote. And thirdly, manage the build through to completion. So all those things, all those points, I think, should be approved by this committee so that it does go on to the action log and something is actually done. So if those 3 points, I mean, it would be very helpful because on the key milestones, I've said 1, obtain 3 quotes for building work, end of August 2024. 2, Finance and General Purposes Committee, select contractor, September 24. And 3, work undertaken and completed, October 24. So it really is about time that something was done about this. We started the work in 2022, and it was kiboshed. So it's time something was done about this.
So who's going to take these forward to fair end of that?
Well, I think the Guildhall office has to do that.
Well, I think they are things that could be also done by council members. I know that personally, and I'm happy to support, but actually I'm at capacity with a number of other bits and pieces, and in particular I've been asked to focus on the lobbies that were quite behind. So at this present time, I couldn't.
Well, then, you know, the timetable has to shift, but I think the committee has to approve of these 3 points. That is, inquire KCC, get 3 quotes, and manage the build through to completion. Councillor Barton?
Yeah, I would just like to say on item number 1, I think you need somebody who has got the experience and confidence to undertake item number, because item number 1 could take 6 to 8 months to complete.
Well,
to get something
message
adopted as a public footpath means that would have to go to Highways Committee and then to full council to get that adopted.
But it may not be necessary. May not be necessary.
Well, currently it's a private thoroughfare. Under the management of the management committee, I know that already. It's a private thoroughfare because they have to undertake the maintenance on it. So before we sort of count our chickens, I think item number 1 is essential. And in particular, I mean, the only option I would give if there's not a councillor that can take on item number 1, I would suggest waiting until the property manager is in post. And there is a distinct possibility, but I must say that the Guildhall staff haven't got any capacity to, and so I wouldn't even expect any of them. I mean, that is going to be a legal entanglement, number 1.
I think it is, because I got an email from the town clerk about it. She passed on the KCC comment. I may be able to find it, which came very quickly when she inquired, and well, I may not be able to find it immediately, but it didn't seem to be an enormous issue. Certainly not KCC didn't give the impression it was a huge issue. But it's not something that I can do as an independent councillor.
Is it something, you mentioned the property manager, is it something that would be certainly within his remit, but can we pass that on to whoever gets it? So his or her remit?
If you want, how about, so if I actually make it an action item, do you want me to bring it back to the next meeting? Information on how we apply, how do we
May not be necessary. May not be necessary. I mean, I know Councillor Carter says it is, but I suspect actually from my discussions with the Ainsley Court residents, it may not be necessary.
Okay.
There
I mean,
will,
I'll take that.
there will be a legal process to undertake on this, so there will be discussion between the solicitors and the management committee and the public highways body. So, I mean, I deal with this on a daily basis with things such as wayleaves for railway stations, and they can take up to 2 years. So I deal with it literally monthly.
I know initially, when I'm going back, I'm sorry from memory, when we originally spoke, we spoke with Townscape residents and their association, I thought they had more or less said that they did own that pathway, because it's in different brick, isn't it? It's different stone. And therefore it was actually up to them. It wasn't anything to do with anyone else. So that was the feedback I think you had, didn't you? That it didn't actually involve anyone else, especially KCC, because it was private property. So unless that's wrong.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman, I'm getting confused here because Councillor Anderson's saying it's been adopted as a public highway, which will involve a legal transaction.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying, I mean, if you read what I've said on the scoping document, I've said, inquire of KCC whether it is necessary to register the status of the pathway through 80 Court as a public footpath. If necessary, get permission for this route to be a public footpath. So it's simply an inquiry to KCC as to whether it is
Well, like I
necessary.
said, I'm happy to take that as an inquiry. I will do that.
Claire, do you think you're saying that the town park has made that inquiry and there's been
Well,
a response?
Yes, there was a response, and I can't find it immediately, but I will.
There was
a response from KCC.
If you're happy, I will contact you after the meeting and then we can discuss it and then possibly arrange for it to come back.
Either come back or with the facilities or manager that can potentially take that on as an action. Assuming that it's something we can move forward with.
I honestly think that's complicating a motivation. It's not that complicated.
Yes.
Delay.
So if we, sorry, just trying to accelerate in terms of where you think we might be, which is number one, might actually be answered. If that is as clear as is necessary. Step two is about getting quotes for the building.
Yeah.
Is there a scope for what that ramp needs to, so who's going to inform?
Can I just, make a point here? If it is taken on as a public footpath, there is liability insurance.
So Claire's saying she thinks an answer has been given KCC.
Well, I think KCC would answer very quickly.
Yes. So they would answer quickly, but they would still need to verify. So somebody tricked.
It was on there actually, so it helped to make things clearer that it you proposed for the town clerk to write to KCC to clarify the legal status of the right of way.
And she did,
and they have emailed to confirm that there are no recorded public rights of way paths on Ainsley Court or Iresgate. The nearest one is actually Christian Avenue Park.
Different question.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman, all that's done is actually state the legality of that pathway, that it is privately owned. That's all it's done.
Yeah.
So let's keep it all very clear.
Yes. So we can take the next step.
So the next step
is.
And what is the next step?
The next step is confirming with KCC
If we want to.
if we can do it.
If we want to make it a public right
Yes.
of way, what is the process
Yes.
we need to go through?
Yeah.
And that's what I'll bring back.
Yeah.
But it may not be necessary to make it a public right of way. I mean, the Ainsley Court residents are quite happy to have people coming through the courtyard, and they do all the time. It's just that disabled people can't because there is no step.
Yeah.
That's, we just need a round. That's all.
Have you got a carpenter?
What?
Have you got a carpenter?
Well, exactly. I mean, the directors of Ainsley Court Residents Company are keen to get this ramp there, and even suggested, that they would do the measuring up and all the rest. I mean, just very frustrating by it.
Is there a different way of approaching it? Is the sense that if you have provision of a ramp, then is available to whoever chooses to use it.
Yes.
Yes.
It's a different
Yeah.
exam question, isn't it?
Yes. Because at the moment it is available for anybody who chooses and can use it.
Yes.
But we're proposing to extend that. But if we're paying for something, or if somebody is paying for a change to enable certain people to use it, is there a liability?
There are
Legal
liabilities.
implications and insurance
Yeah,
implications.
there will be, yeah.
Yeah.
But that's what we
will
cover our
research.
stance on.
Yes,
Yeah.
we can take that to
And bring it back to,
It
with
was
a potential timetable.
September, but I will attend a September meeting and I will email you and yes.
Right, I think we've finished with the scoping documents. Well, we might sort of just move on because this is something I put in. What clearly we cannot do because it would just take so much time to end our business. It's if there is anything that people feel that should be on the next agenda. Obviously, I just started with this is to deal with it. Mr. Anderson?
Yes, I think that I mentioned at the start of the meeting, the tree warden's report.
Yeah.
Should be considered.
Yeah, and I've offered to Nicky that I can be happy to present any report from him. So if we can add that as a provisional entry. Dating, sorry. Yes, of course.
Came back to me because we parked it at the start, so there was the discussion about the signage. So we're going to,
signage.
yeah, we are going. So it was Councillor Franklin project, which he is no longer part of this group, so it's going to be included alongside the two that Councillor Marie has got. So remind myself.
And the signage of the nature of slow down.
No. So around
information.
it's the signage around the town, historic signs, etc.
Yes.
That might be pointing in the wrong direction, might be missing, might be needed, all of that stuff. And he did do a walk around. He did do a walk around with a DDC officer on that matter.
I think they may have some information on that too, because they were talking about that yesterday at the tourist meeting and what that signage might look like as well,
Yes.
and where it should be.
Yeah.
So it may be something that Jane Miles would help a bit with, that because
I've got a chance of following it up with somebody, and then I can feed back through, maybe by email just to agree tomorrow. Yeah.
Right, if we can go to number 13, unlucky or lucky 13 in this case, because we've got through everything. Date and time of next meeting, the 11th of September, 2024. So 9/11. Yeah. And that's the end of the meeting. Thank you very much for attending.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Still recording.
When's the next time you do this?
Tomorrow, next week.